We just need to find Jean, kill her, and go home.
But Scott, I don't want you to kill me.
I don't want to kill you either.
You don't have to. I'm good again.
Oh, that's a relief.
Sucker!
She tricked us!
Well, at least with that we can be certain she's evil.
My wife is always either all-powerful, evil, or dead. I just can't take it anymore.
Don't worry, dear. We'll just have to make sure she stays in the dead category.
Hello and welcome to another episode with the Rollin' 20s. We are here for another talk. I am Jeremy.
Steve.
And V.
We unfortunately are missing Jesse. He's having a little bit of work issues. Before we get into that, this morning we used an opening theme by an online band called Sorry, Okay, Yes. They call themselves a two-man power trio. We decided to borrow their tune Self-Reliant. We'll probably use another one to close out the show. You can find their music at sorryokayyes.info. It is a 100% free download. It's almost rockabilly at some point. You should probably check it out. As always, you can find this show on missionstarpodcast.com along with several other convention reports and other standing podcasts. You can also subscribe to us on iTunes and Stitcher. And if you have any suggestions, you can either email me at mspfreight@yahoo.com or you can tweet us at rolling_20s. How's the morning going for both of you?
I think it'll be going a little better once I wake up a little more.
I hear that. Man, unfortunately, I had to call V and I woke her up. She says she's okay with it, but I tell you what, there's one solid joy I get out of that, and she does that nice half awake, sleepless, answering of the phone. Oh no, it's more, hey, how's it going? It's one of those things where you just kind of roll over and there she is. It's like, oh damn, score.
Yeah, no, I really don't mind. I really do sleep like too much if I don't have my alarm on.
It's that momentary guilt of waking you up followed by that extreme pleasure of, oh my god, this is, that's hot. Oh my goodness. I asked you guys to read Indestructible Hulk this week. That's turning out to be much different than I expected, but first of all, we'll get into the bits of news that are, at least I think, are more important over the course of the week. Bryan Singer tweeted a new photo from the set of X-Men Days of Futures Past, and it was a series of surgical tools of all kinds, and all he said with the picture was Magneto's toys. Not quite sure where that's going, but then again, I had the idea of him using a magnetic storm and all these things whirling around in circles, and I think I peed a little. V, did you get a chance to watch that movie yet? The First Class?
Oh, no, I didn't.
Ooh.
This has been a busy week for some reason. I can't go back and pinpoint on exactly what I did the entire time that made it busy, but somehow every moment was just consumed.
Usually drinking's involved when something like that happens.
I don't really drink.
Oh, okay.
Well, anymore.
Or any less. Let's see. This wasn't high news, but it was something that piqued my interest. And there's going to be a new He-Man ongoing series, and apparently the first few issues has She-Ra as a villain in it.
Okay.
She's going to be known as Despera. I guess she's been brainwashed by Hordak's crew. I don't entirely know where this was going. It was just one of those things from my childhood that kind of reared its head.
Yeah.
I remember having seen that on IO9.
Yeah, it's... Like I said, I don't know if it's necessarily big news. It's just one of those weird curiosities that it might make me check out a couple issues just to see where it's headed. Let's see. Oh, there's been a bit of a controversy in comic books lately. There is a new team of Avengers, the Uncanny Avengers. It's pretty much half Avengers, half X-Men. It is a team that seems to be responding to a lot of the mutant-oriented threats out there, the ones that are trying to, eviscerate or experiment on them. Havoc had to do a press conference in the latest issue. Somebody referred to him as a mutant, and he said that he doesn't want to be called that word. He calls it the M word, similar to how black people view certain words in the English dictionary. some fans are taking umbrage to that because, well, the reasons vary. I don't know if people are making too big of a deal out of this.
You know, I find it appropriate. I mean, when you're literally discussing...
You're going to have to start over again. You broke up there.
Sorry, the cat decided to climb down my chest to get to the floor.
At least it wasn't Jesse.
Yeah. Alright, go. Yeah, no, I find it a lot more appropriate because, I mean, bringing up the whole, black person, and their problems with certain words in the English language, I mean, they're taking it from the standpoint of the story, where, I mean, really, they used mutants almost as a racial slur.
Yeah, I agree.
For so long. I mean, it's appropriate from the context of the story.
Maybe it's my outlook. I see the word mutant as a word of power. That denotes this is someone of extraordinary ability.
Right, but from society in the comic book's view, that it's a dangerous and undesirable state to be in.
You're going to use some words in there.
I was going to say that there is a similar controversy with certain words in the English language for women. And they're trying to take the whole point, why is this offensive? We should just, empower it and take it back and use it on its own. But the other people are like, no, it's offensive. Shouldn't use, blah, blah, blah. But so... There's always going to be two sides of the coin, or issue.
This probably wouldn't be as much of an issue if this team wasn't expressly made to deal with mutant issues. It's literally supposed to be the extension of Charles Xavier's ideals now that he died, and, I don't know what specifically made Captain America do this, other than the fact that he's had a history in recent comic books of really ignoring mutant issues altogether and letting other people handle them until they explode. So if you're going to have several of these people on the team, you're still going to have to identify them somehow. They've made it very clear in the comic book that these particular X-Men don't exactly feel like Avengers because they're not hanging out with a full crew. They're pretty much separated from the rest.
Well, and that's the thing. I mean, I suppose it depends how far they're going to take it in the comics as well to keep it, true to real life. Or I certainly hope that they don't start using the politically correct, terms and usages and so forth. But,
yeah, me and PC. I would rather slap somebody than deal with that. But
yeah.
Unfortunately, the writer Rick Remender didn't do himself any favors because in a tweet that's since been deleted, he wrote, quote, "If Havoc's position in UA number 5 really upsets you, it's time to drown yourself in hobo piss. Seriously, do it. It's the only solution." Unquote.
Wow.
Yeah.
There.
People feel really
he's
strongly
definitely
about that.
not somebody that I'm going to have to worry about him going PC.
Yeah, it's really just one of those cases though that if he wrote it and he stuck by it, don't have an issue with that. But you've got to learn to deal with people's dissenting opinions a little better than this.
Yeah, that was definitely unprofessional and downright rude.
Yeah.
But, I don't know.
Well,
I tend to look at that kind of stuff as, he was probably having a bad day.
Yeah. Well, we'll bounce from that because this is the type of social issue we could spend all day talking about.
True.
Let's see. Disney closed LucasArts, the gaming division, lays off all staff, and cancels all games by the company.
Was it all staff? The article I read just said that they laid off quite a bit.
They laid off the entirety of LucasArts staff. Or,
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Okay, I guess I misquoted. They did lay off about 200 of them, which, considering how big LucasArts is, that's probably the majority of them.
Yeah, that's like I said. I thought it was the majority, but I didn't think it was all of them.
They may have laid off all, because apparently the LucasArts brand is still going to exist, except that it's only going to exist in the fact that they're subletting the licenses out to other companies to develop the games. So
Right.
in other words, when anything from this point forward that you receive with the LucasArts brand is going to be a third-party company that's borrowing that brand while they develop this particular game for Disney.
Yeah, they essentially opened the list of... I mean, they had their own list of subcontractors, but they just decided... Disney decided that it needed to be a much larger list. I imagine they probably kept some people from marketing or something just to facilitate making sure what brand or that the companies doing the work are still representing the brand as they like.
Yeah, I'm starting to wonder if Disney's actually going to produce anything new. It seems like all their big products, especially the successful ones, just happen to be by companies they've bought, not necessarily companies they started. Marvel, Pixar, LucasArts now.
Yeah.
They're going to turn themselves into a hell of a
Disney
broker.
still creates a lot of its own stuff. It's just, a lot of its new stuff they've been buying and then making changes to.
Yeah. Oh, well. Well, it's the end of another era.
Yeah.
But it might not be as bad of an era as some people think.
I'm not saying it's going to be bad. It seems like they have an overall plan. They came into this with eyes wide open and had an idea on how to develop the Star Wars franchises. It is kind of worrisome, though, when I'm watching most of my geek hobbies, or at least even those I'm vaguely interested in, like Star Wars, and heavily interested in, like Marvel, all owned by the same company.
Yeah. It is creating an interesting monopoly.
A bit.
Yeah.
I
kind of freaked out when I first read that article just because I was like, wait, which part of Lucas did they close? Because, they've been announcing this new Star Wars movie, and I was like, okay, and they were talking about something in Star Wars getting canceled, and it was, of course, the game that they were talking about, not the movie. And
Hey, a little surprise, I just picked up another call. Say hello.
What's up, Jesse?
Hello.
Oh, wow, you sound like you were far away in a cave with the canaries.
I don't even know if he's got a mic at work.
I heard him say hello.
I heard nothing.
I don't know what's going on. Maybe you'll check his mic. I'll leave it open in case he can manage to bring up the levels a little bit. Let's see. We'll keep going forward here. Marvel released a video about their new Phase 2 movie group. Basically everything from this spring going forward. There wasn't a whole lot of new footage in there. It did use a little bit of the Ant-Man test footage I mentioned earlier. We'll make sure to put a link on that in the website with this report. But they did go into some details as to how everything is affecting Iron Man now that he's in a post-Avengers world. And it doesn't reveal a whole lot. It does look like it's going to be interesting going forward. They seem to have a lot of plans that even seem to include Guardians of the Galaxy. So it looks like a lot of this is going to be very interconnected. They also showed some production CG. It looks like video storyboards of how Captain America Winter Soldier is going to go forward. And they released some storyboard art that include Cap fending off a cybernetic punch by the Winter Soldier. For those of you that don't know, spoilers, the Winter Soldier is a reprogrammed and brainwashed Bucky Barnes, the one he lost in the first movie, his best friend.
Which I was unaware of until I started playing that game you lent me, the Marvel.
Oh, Ultimate Alliance, yeah. Well,
yeah, thank you.
In the comic books, he turned into an extremely popular character. Okay, Jesse's at work speaking in the microphone built into his laptop. Still can't hear you, man. But, it seems like they're going to go forward in a very similar fashion. So hopefully these movies will continue to be pretty high quality. Let's see, Dark Horse is starting a new Star Wars comic book series. Star Wars Dark Time, A Spark Remains. It's kind of like a Star Wars version of the Nazi story of Valkyrie. There's a couple of Jedi who are trying to assassinate Vader before he's at full power.
Interesting.
Yeah, for those people that
kind of dark.
Yeah, for those people that go deep into the mythology, this is probably going to be a hell of a read. For somebody like me, not so much. But if you got an interest, go read it. And Robert Redford, we discussed last week how there was a rumor he was going to be cast in the new Captain America Winter Soldier. He's confirmed it. He's going to play a high-level SHIELD, not operative, bureaucrat, I guess is the right word, named Pierce. As he puts it, he thinks that these films are really powerful, and he thinks they're great. It's the kind of movie he would have loved to see as a kid. That's a big star to add to this, especially in such a small role.
Mm-hmm.
And I found out this week he is not the only big name already attached to the movie. A UFC fighter, I think his name is Georges St. Pierre, has been added. He's going to be Batroc the Leaper.
Interesting.
I'm hoping that's going to be a short role, because I don't need a faux French accent running around the screen for 90 minutes, 2 hours.
Yeah, well, and Batroc the Leaper hasn't ever really been a big villain.
I would argue he's been one of Captain America's most stalwart villains. He's rarely ever caught. He's kind of like the Cobra Commander of Captain America. He always shows up, causes some hell, but he's never stuck around long enough to really get cuffed. You know, and he's recently been fleshed out in the comics, but you would have had to read them to really know that, or even care. So I won't spend too much time on that. Let's see. That's it for the bigger news, with the exception of, I believe there's been some casting news. Marvel, it looks like the S.H.I.E.L.D. TV series is going forward as far as I can tell.
Yeah, I saw on IO9 that Agent Coulson might be coming back in some form.
He's actually been confirmed to at least be on the pilot episode of this series. So far,
be in a flashback or something.
I don't think so. They made it sound like he's going to be leading a team of not rogue agents, just a Black Ops team to handle some issues that aren't Avengers-level threats. They've got Brett Dalton is already attached to it, Ming-Na Wen, Ian de Castecker, Elizabeth Henstridge. They're all S.H.I.E.L.D. agents of kind of antisocial means, and a civilian hacker played by Chloe Bennett. The big news this week was that they had just added August Richards. He was the guy who played Gunn on the Angel team. Yeah, wow.
That was what I was trying to remember.
You sound like you just jumped out of your chair.
I didn't, but...
But, I mean, they've changed the name from S.H.I.E.L.D. TV series to Marvel's Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. It sounds like they're really planning on going through with this. And it is supposed to be loosely connected to the movieverse, as it is. So I continue hopes that this may be a good place for them to introduce origins for characters like Carol Danvers or Hank Pym or Quasar.
That would be cheaper.
And not to mention quicker.
Mm-hmm.
So, at least they're putting thought into it. Let's see. And I added a clip to the beginning of the show from Floating Hand Studios from his X-Men Dark Phoenix Rising video. We'll make sure to link that to the website as well because it makes me laugh. Sorry, Emma Frost and Jean Grey slapping each other over Cyclops. There's something so Jerry Springer but hilarious about it.
Yeah, I've been looking for that for a while, so I'm glad you found it.
YouTube! All right, let's go ahead and get into the day. We've got Indestructible Hulk. V, you want to give a short summary of what this is?
I didn't really get a chance to read much.
Oh, for shame, young lady. Okay, Steve,
yeah.
I know you can nerd up.
All right, okay, get my nerd on. Yeah, I was quite surprised and pleased with the direction they decided to go with this. They've basically taken the Incredible Hulk. The last time I read this was back in the day when he was, still doing his angsty, my wife left me, traveling around with, what was his sidekick for a little while then?
Rick Jones.
Thank you. Yeah. Totally not the direction they're going with Banner now. I'm really liking the humor in this book, but they've basically taken Incredible Hulk and made it not quite just about the Hulk. Still got the Hulk, but it's also got a lot of Banner. But yeah, he's decided that not going to try to cure the Hulk anymore, which is why it's now called the Indestructible Hulk. That is what Banner has decided. Hulk's not going away. Hulk is indestructible. So let's take the focus off of the Green Man and start trying to build up his own identity inside.
Super science, basically.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's definitely a new take. It's one that definitely has been inspired by the movies. They're trying to make the Hulk more interesting than just this uncontrollable monster that needs to be banished or destroyed or cured. But, I mean, in thinking about this and reading this, I thought about some of the past history of the Hulk. I mean, some people don't remember that the Hulk didn't start out green. He started gray.
Did he start gray? I remembered him going gray, but...
He started out as gray in the first few issues. He changed to green almost mysteriously, and it was one of those things where the Hulk originally didn't sell too well, so a lot of people didn't realize there had been a switch. The thing was, gray in the 1960s was very distinct, but also extremely expensive. We're talking back when they did like dot printing. And to get gray, you got to mix a hell of a lot of ink. So they decided to make it a little simpler, and they just shifted him to green one day. It was a lot cheaper. Yeah. You know, the Hulk has always been kind of influenced by this Jekyll and Hyde kind of duality. And he's had a lot of different changes over the years. Everyone remembers the childlike, you know, green rampaging monster, which is basically Bruce Banner's inner child given muscles and gone crazy.
Hulk smash!
That little note, even Jesse mentioned that the no Hulk smash on his tombstone. That was
yeah. Well, I mean, he's gone through a different permutations. There's at least twice where Banner's brain was in charge of Hulk's body. So there, for a while, there was this giant running around with glasses and this weird kind of jumpsuit. Which,
that was the Grey Hulk, wasn't it?
No, that was still green. Remember the new Fantastic Four era?
Right.
Yeah. V's just going, what the fuck? There was a short period where the Fantastic Four was indisposed, and four heroes, you know, the Banner-controlled Hulk, Ghost Rider, Wolverine, and Spider-Man of all characters, found themselves in the midst of an adventure in Fantastic Four Tower. And they didn't name themselves as such, but because they had to take it over for about 3 issues, the storyline was called New Fantastic Four. About as dysfunctional of a quartet as you could ever think of. You know,
and the amusing thing is, that most of those wound up on the New Avengers.
Yeah, well, let alone, you know, the Hulk, even though Banner controlled it, he had most of the memory, so he had this it's almost uncontrollable urge to just drive Wolverine to the ground like a 10 spike. You know, Wolverine doesn't forget anything, so he wanted to stab him in the gonads. Then you have Spider-Man and Ghost Rider.
Not helping.
Yeah, big polar opposites there. So nothing really went well. Let's see. There was a period where he was gray, like you mentioned. He had tried to cure himself of the Hulk, and he had this... He didn't change when he got angry anymore. It was very werewolfish because he would change at night into this gray thing, which had its own personality, kind of like a... I don't quite know how to put it. Low-class urbanite?
Yeah. Kind of poor man's
thing, I guess.
Yeah.
And he was stomping around Vegas. Somebody took notice of him, and he needed a job. So somebody put him in a giant blue suit, called him Mr. Joe Fix-It, and he was a bouncer outside a Las Vegas nightclub.
Interesting.
Yeah. And lately, the Green Hulk obviously has been back, but he's had more of a brain since he was banished to another planet by Marvel's Illuminati, you know, kind of their hybrid individuals of Doctor Strange, the Black Bolt, Charles Xavier, Mr. Fantastic, Iron Man. They figured out that the Hulk was just kind of uncontrollable and they weren't going to be able to destroy it, so instead they thought they were going to send it to another planet. It landed on the wrong one. It was using gladiatorial fights, and during that period it evolved. If the original Hulk was Bruce Banner's tortured inner child, the one that came back from this was Bruce Banner's inner angsty teenager.
Yeah.
Because he just wanted to take all the Illuminati and punish them all, and if anybody stood in his way, he was going to subjugate or destroy them.
Did a damn good job, too.
Came really close. It took the Sentry of all people to stop him. Which is a statement in and of itself.
Yeah.
And, let's see, now that all that's been done and Banner's had a few more changes, now we're left with this Hulk that's somewhat more intelligent, but definitely more instinctual. And Banner is tired of not being given his due as one of Marvel's premier super scientists. So he's convinced S.H.I.E.L.D. that if he lets them borrow the Hulk, you know, just kind of slap him and point him at something you want destroyed, he gets a lab, he gets funding, he gets his own team of scientists, and he's going to start creating things to change the world. This is kind of an ego trip. It's an interesting idea, and so far we've... That's why in a lot of recent Marvel books that you may have read, you've noticed the Hulk wearing this bizarre armor.
Yeah, like when he showed up at in Australia.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like Bruce Banner kind of sealed up in this poor man's Tony Stark outfit. When he grows, it's either shoulder pads and, kind of like armored bicycle shorts, or it's just the bicycle shorts. I don't know. I'm trying to think of how to put it. I'm not doing very good at describing the visual.
I don't know. The shoulder pads kind of remind me with that little chest strap of more of a gladiator-like look.
Something of that nature. It's definitely one of those things that says this guy's
a sci-fi He-Man suit.
That is an image I don't need.
Oh man!
All of a sudden, I'm thinking of furry loincloths now. I think I may throw up. Wow. But I mean, these books are a really quick read. I've read through 6 of them, and it feels like I haven't been doing it for more than about an hour. Some of that is because the panels are freaking huge. They take up like a quarter of the page minimum. But these, the scenes with Banner have a lot of great dialogue and a lot of really good narration. The scenes with Hulk, a little short on talking.
Yeah, well, that is one change I did notice is, they really don't have Hulk doing a lot of dialogue. It's not even Hulk smash. Although episode 6 had a memorable line, but I guess we'll get to that in a moment.
Yeah, I mean, the first issue was really interesting when Maria Hill is getting ready to cut a mission. Meanwhile, she's going over the files of the Hulk, trying to figure out where he's been, and Banner simply walks up behind her, drops a bag on the table, and starts talking to her like it's over regular coffee. Makes this insane offer, an example of a device he built in 3 days. It's supposed to reduce all water poisoning, I think?
Water purifier.
Yeah.
Interestingly enough, I believe that technology actually exists.
It may, but that's a different style of conversation. I just remember him reminding her that she has to deal with an operation with a Mad Thinker. He gave her the offer to use the Hulk as a tryout, and he's got his back to her as they're walking outside, and all he says is, "What do you think?" Then you see Maria Hill right behind him with this flat plank of wood, obviously. I wasn't sure if she was I wasn't sure if she was trying to activate him or knock him out.
It just... Like I said, I've been enjoying the humor in this book.
I mean, well, it's only humorous when Banner's around. When Hulk's out, it seems like almost every issue is, oh my god, is that even possible?
Yeah. Jesse was making a list for me. He was pointing out that they definitely have been going through and reaffirming the Hulk's strength and durability. First going up against the Mad Thinker and, basically saying, his strength is incalculable.
Well, we've said it before that the movie, the Avengers had the first positive movie version of the Hulk. All the rest have been mopey and how have I get rid of it. So this series is their chance of introducing the Hulk to the readers they may have gotten because of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't want to lose that vibe to suddenly it's back to Banner, trying to shoot himself in the mouth.
Yeah. I did find it interesting that, especially going up against the Mad Thinker, Jesse points out that his durability is enough to survive not only lava, but also to the weapon that the Mad Thinker was using was something that was meant to remold Ultron's adamantine body, and he's basically pumping this into him, and it had no effect.
It had an effect. I mean, he was burning skin off it, but it's just... They've made it very clear since probably the 90s that the Hulk is one of those characters that has extreme regenerative ability.
Yeah.
There was one where he came out of a molten volcano. He crawled out, and the S.H.I.E.L.D. agent there in charge of him said, "We're going to start the normal extraction procedure as soon as he's cool enough to touch."
And then Banner wakes up in a hospital bed with some bandages on his forehead.
Yeah, he was a little blistered by the time he woke up. I do applaud the writer of this particular series right now. I don't remember who that is, but he's brought up a lot of 60s style threats and updated them for the series. The Mad Thinker, the Quanchonic Man, Lemurians, Mark Waid. Oh yeah, Mark Waid knows his way around a pencil.
Yeah, and honestly, I think that's good because like I said, last time I read the Hulk was back in the day, and it wasn't ever really a really consistent thing for me. So as far as like villains for the Hulk, I knew about the leader.
Mm-hmm.
That's about it.
The scientists he's gathered for his little team are kind of a trip. He's got one convict, one country bumpkin. One of them appears to be trying to push his buttons. The blonde woman.
Yeah, she's kind of interesting, and that seems to be, and that was another thing is that Banner knows a secret about all of his assistants. So, and he seems to be addressing that particular person's secret first.
Well, again, something that seems to be lost on a lot of the Marvel Universe and readers is that Bruce Banner has always been listed as one of the 7 smartest scientists there is out there. He's usually busy. Yeah,
which is why it was... I like this direction, because it always does get lost, and, they straight up just pointed it out right in the first issue. Yeah, everybody always forgets that Banner is, literally a genius. And, he just never really gets a chance to use that, so it's nice that they're exploring that different capability.
Let's see. In the second issue, he dealt with the Quintronic Man. That was... I didn't have to look that up. I'm glad they explained that, but man, that was... Oh, no, I'm sorry. That was the third issue. Second issue was his dealings with Tony Stark.
Which was quite amusing.
Yeah, Stark did not think that Banner was doing this by himself. He was convinced that S.H.I.E.L.D. was using some kind of mental expert to confuse him or to trick him into working for them. And I just remember that sound, that horror he had when he heard the sound he had never heard before, and it just happened to be Bruce Banner laughing.
Yeah, well, and then both of their responses to poor Hill going, "You wouldn't understand."
Yeah, they were laughing over math. Yeah.
A pun in a math formula.
It's about as nerdy as it gets.
Yeah, that is a good point Jesse brings up, that while Banner is trying to bring about his good name and whatnot, he is still extremely jealous of certain other heroes. Well,
he doesn't like Tony Stark in particular, because out of all the scientists in Marvel, Reed Richards, Hank Pym, Banner himself, Amadeus Cho, Tony Stark's kind of the rock star among them.
Oh, yeah.
He's the one who says the biggest and the loudest, "Look what I've done!" And he's... Banner spent all of his life, he has dealt some interesting innovations, but most of them have been to keep his other half in line.
Right, and then, of course, previously, due to the accident, but, he was in kind of Tony Stark's original field, weapon development.
Yeah, well, it's just when you think about it, Tony Stark gets a lot of praise, but, we've discussed before how even though he tries, he does do some massive blunders. He's the one that caused the Phoenix Force to be dispersed among 5 X-Men and caused utter hell across the planet.
Yeah, self-destructive comes to mind.
Yeah. He also thinks that he's managed to finally banish the Phoenix Force, which is kind of laughable in among itself. Before Marvel's reboots, he was somebody who killed, the Avengers nanny and a former Avenger. Tony Stark has had a lot of dark times. Yes, Jesse, he's kind of a prick, but at the same time, he has kind of earned that prickishness. He does base the Avengers. So, it's... The confrontation between him and Banner in issue 2 was also hilarious, because Banner wanted to see him just to turn to Hulk and beat the shit out of him.
Yeah. Although their conversation at the end of it, where Banner's just starting this whole exposition, he's like, "Oh, I'm sorry, am I frightening you?" And he's like, no, and then he walks into the bathroom and has to look himself in the mirror and say, "You're still rich."
Well, I especially liked his response to Hill afterwards when everything they worked with was wrecked. She just says, "You radioed a pickup? Where's my jump craft?" "I'll put it in my tab." "Oh, for..." But yeah, after that was dealing with the Quintronic Man, and that was about as 60s as it ever gets. A giant robot that has to be piloted by 5 people. It was
but you're dead.
It was almost like somebody, whoever wrote this, was channeling their inner Transformers fan. Five people to make one gigantic robot. I'm not going to go deep into that. The Lemurian stuff was kind of interesting on several fronts because they brought in a lot of weird new developments, like the Chinese and their submersible helicarrier-sized vehicle.
Yeah.
Let alone, I like the fact that he was on it with the Chinese, who didn't speak a lick of English, and as soon as they ran into trouble, they got the Hill Protocol, which was to immediately, and they didn't explain it to him because he didn't speak Chinese, they immediately grabbed Banner, shoved him into a torpedo tube, and launched him.
And of course, we've been avoiding mentioning the fifth member of his assistants.
Oh, you mean Rob?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just loved that. The introduction of Rob and just.
Well, let's go backwards.
Next issue, Rob 2.0.
Yeah, let's go backwards for half a sec, because I like the fact that the only reason that he was on the Dreadnought was because, as he put it, the last time he was in a S.H.I.E.L.D. submarine, he found out for the first time how long a submarine full of S.H.I.E.L.D. agents could hold its breath because he stubbed his toe on a door. Yeah, everyone was waiting to see if the Hulk was coming out. But
they seem to be having a lot of those moments in these comics.
Yeah, the writer's having fun, and everyone remembers that this used to be the guy who would turn into the Hulk just because he started breathing too hard.
Yeah.
Rob is an interesting thing because, to give him this money, this lab, and these people to work with, S.H.I.E.L.D. wants constant monitoring, so they sent this thing with him that's supposed to record all activities, this sentient little thing called Rob. As soon as he was introduced to it in the end of the third issue, it was just staring at him. He immediately turned green, punched it, and broke it.
Hence the Rob 2.0 in the next version.
Yep, they had to get him a new one right away. It's not comic relief so far, but it's interesting. It's one of those things that's a fun read on multiple levels. If you have any idea of the history of the Hulk, it does get really cool. You heard that?
Yeah.
This one will probably be kind of short because the Hulk is admittedly very simple, but this one does seem to be a recommended read by those that have gotten through it.
Oh yeah.
It's a very different tempo from most Marvel books.
Yeah, and it definitely seems like it can keep. He's definitely got the writer definitely has a plan for both Hulk and Banner, so. Yeah, the story should be constantly evolving and really should be able to go somewhere.
Well, it's also kind of notable that they're using the Hulk in the Avengers because this is the first time he's been a member of that since they originally started in the 60s. The Hulk was one of the first 5, and then, he quit not long after that. But, that's little nerd history.
Yeah.
I do want to do something with you guys because I had an idea for next week that I ran by V, and I think she's excited. And
I am excited.
We can do a little bit of it right here because I want to put together a profile as to whether or not the history of the Hulk is truth or strange fiction. In other words, I want to put together a psych profile based on the origin and actions and powers of this character and see if it's what kind of person it would make.
Mm-hmm.
When you think about it, the Hulk is a complete accident. It's kind of the subconscious id of Bruce Banner brought to life because of the Gamma Bomb accident.
Right.
And has created this being of almost immeasurable strength and durability. I could not imagine what kind of hell that would be, especially for someone like Bruce Banner. He spent, obviously, 50 years in comic books trying to expel this thing. How would you react? Because every time you're under a pressure situation, you've got a monster that coming out of you that not only destroys your work, but several city blocks.
Yeah, at least.
Yeah, what's the proper reaction to that?
I'm as
honestly,
amazed he's as well put together as he is.
No, but would a person like that be that well put together? That's the thing.
I don't think I would be.
No, I definitely wouldn't be either, although he has had the equivalent of years to try and, learn to live with it at least. And, he wasn't even doing a good job of that. He was essentially trying to cure himself. And, as Jesse said, a moral person would have tried, in this case, to kill himself.
Well,
because he did on several occasions.
Yeah, that's why I question that, because just about any form of suicide, unless you are as calm as a Hindu cow, is going to raise your adrenaline to such a point that the monster comes out, and how are you going to kill yourself at that point? You can't exactly drop yourself on top of the Empire State Building.
Try to learn meditation and whatnot at one point during the comics, and it helped him avoid turning into the Hulk sometimes, but yeah, it's still...
There's a certain kind of fatalism that you get at a certain point if you keep trying at something and just continually fail. There's a certain point you get this fatalism is just sort of like you don't care about anything anymore. So I could see a suicide attempt being successful under those circumstances. You wouldn't necessarily have to get adrenaline. You'd just be like...
Yeah, except that I think your body naturally reacts to produce that independent of what your true...
emotional status. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Well, let's also not ignore that, according to several signs from the comic books, the Hulk is... Even when he's Banner, the Hulk is never exactly off. It's kind of like a modern TV, because the man is always exhibiting high amounts of gamma radiation, or I should say exuding it from his body.
Right.
Not necessarily lethal, but definitely enough to... Dangerous. Yeah, it's not exactly lethal, but it's high enough to at least be picked up compared to normal human beings. So
I don't remember, does gamma radiation actually exist in reality?
Yes, gamma radiation does actually exist. I seriously doubt that being a few hundred yards from a blast would exactly make you turn green and go insane like that. It might make you turn... Yeah, it might make you turn a little more red and kind of death-like. But, I mean, obviously the origin is complete and utter BS. There's no way this would really work. But gamma rays are definitely a very real thing in science. Yeah, I do think Jesse has a point that if you try suicide long enough, you have to learn to live with it, but that's kind of what the focus of the Indestructible Hulk series is. He's tried everything to get rid of it, so now he's just trying to figure out how to harness it long enough to make it useful in between downtimes, basically.
Yeah, I did find it interesting. He referred to himself as a cannon. Point me in a direction and,
Considering the size of the codpiece he's wearing in that series, cannon might not be the word I'd use.
Oh my.
No, now she has a real reason to read it. It is one of those things where I do think that this person would either be very positive, not Bruce Banner, but say this happened to a third party. This type of person that these circumstances would create would either be very positive, or he would end up ruling the entire West Coast.
Yeah.
Because this is also a being that, even though he doesn't fly, he does travel hundreds of miles in single leaps. So he could get to a vast region to defend his territory if he feels like he has it. Yes, just the West Coast. It's not like he would hurl I-beams or anything. Then again, I don't know what his future versions do.
Well, especially now that he is worthy.
Well, imagine what would have happened to such a being who would have figured out how to harness this thing early on. I mean, half the Marvel superheroes would have been dead before they got out the gate.
Yeah. I mean, most people, their initial reaction to something like that is, oh crap, beat the crap out of it, but it doesn't work. I mean, there are very few people that have the initial strength to knock Hulk unconscious. That's really the only way to win.
Well, the other frightening thing would be, I mean, this is Bruce Banner. This is somebody who isn't just mild-mannered. He was meek when this first happened. Could you imagine this type of circumstance being enacted on an average human being with their level of emotional rage?
Mm.
This thing would have created storms out of cities.
Yeah. I can definitely attest to the fact that Merced would be wiped off the map because...
Oh, Merced barely exists these days anyway.
Yeah, I don't deal well with certain stressful situations, and yeah.
Yeah.
All right. No, that's an interesting little read. That actually goes into what we're going to talk about next week. We're going to profile more heroes and villains. We're going to come up and see if their origins would create the kind of characters you see in comic books, or if they would create some kind of new engine of destruction. V and I, just in discussing the idea, we accidentally got into a long conversation regarding Superman, Batman, and I think Rogue.
Yeah, that was exactly right.
And it started to come up with some really interesting theories. This is the kind of conversation that I think most people would do around a coffee table in between, marathons of Doctor Who.
Yes, exactly.
So this one looks like it's not going to involve a whole lot of... Actually, it's not going to involve any background reading. It's just going to involve a whole lot of postulation. Which is my favorite. I'm curious to see who's going to come up. Jesse wants to know who the subjects would be. Well, Batman, Superman, and Rogue, I think, are 3 prime candidates. I think I would also like to discuss Lex Luthor for a little bit, since he's kind of the flip side. Obviously, villains are going to be a topic of conversation. Need at least 5 to start. And, wait, where's my list? As with usual, I end up writing a lot of things down as I'm going along. And I came up just in about 8 minutes with a possible list of subjects. Superman, Batman, Nova, Psylocke, Jean Grey, Havoc, Captain America, Luke Cage, Harley Quinn, Lex Luthor, Joker, Punisher, Mr. Fantastic, Ant-Man, Oracle, Hope Summers, Bruce Banner, which we've already done, Norman Osborn, Kitty Pryde, Cyclops, Sinister, Doctor Doom, Brainiac, Colossus, Martian Manhunter, Oliver Queen, Emma Frost, Cypher. That was 8 minutes.
Nice.
So obviously it would take forever to do all these, so I'd like to pick a hard 5 to do, and then we can move on to a few others if we have the time. So we're going to do Superman, Batman, Rogue. We'll do Lex Luthor since he's very different from the rest of them. What would make a good 5th one to definitively talk about?
Let's go cosmic.
Nova, Thanos.
Nova or Thanos, somebody like that.
Okay, Nova's a good one. Maybe that. Yeah, we should probably do Nova. We got a lot of DC on this list for a first talk through. But obviously, this is something that could be a lot of fun, just kind of kicking the crap in and can create some long conversations. Everybody in for next week?
Yep.
All right.
I have no issue.
Okay. All right. I think we will call it there. We had a shorter episode, but we've also got some stuff it sounds like each of us has to do, and I think Jesse's tired of typing. All right. So we will see you next week. We want you to keep rolling with us. I am Jeremy.
Steve.
And V.
Thank you very much. Oh, man. That Jesse typing in and out. I nearly busted a testicle.
I am gone, my Lord. I am gone, my Lord. Now or never fades out. I was calling for what you leave me alone, what you say, oh my darling.